certain areas will be colorless and apparently non-existent. But always there is a persistent overshadowing light, from which a stream of lights pours down into the phenomenal man. This can be seen attaching itself in two major localities to the dense inner core of the physical man. These 2 points of attachment are to be found in the head and in the heart. There can also be seen, dimly at first but with increasing brightness, 7 other pale discs of light which are the early evidence of the 7 centers. 4. These centers, which constitute the quality aspects and the consciousness aspects, and whose function it is to color the appearance, or outer expression of man and use it as a response apparatus, are, during the evolutionary process, subject to 3 types of unfoldment. A. That unfoldment which takes place as a physical plane child grows from an infant to a man. By the time he is 21, the centers should normally have reached the same quality of expression as they had attained when he passed out of life in a previous incarnation. The man then takes up life, where he had previously left it off. B. The awakening of the centers through life experience. Occasionally only one center may be dealt with in any one life. Sometimes several are brought into greater, functioning consciousness. C. There is, finally, the awakening of these centers through the process of initiation. This of course only happens when the man is consciously upon the path. 5. The centers determine the man's point of evolution, as far as his phenomenal expression is concerned. They work directly upon the physical body through the medium of the endocrine system. This point should be borne in mind, for the future occult healer will approach his patient with this knowledge. He will then work through those centers and glands which govern the particular area of the body wherein the disease or discomfort is located. The time, however, for this has not yet come, for man's ignorance is great. Overstimulation of the centers, and consequently of the glands, could easily be brought about, and the disease condition might be stimulated also and increased, instead of dissipated or healed. A. Uncontrolled and ill-regulated emotion. Given these basic facts, it can be seen how wrong emotional attitudes and a general unhealthy condition of the astral body must be potent factors in producing discomfort and disease. This is due to the fact that the vital, or etheric bodies of the masses of humanity are governed primarily, and swept into activity through the action of the astral body. Agitation in that body, any violent activity under stress of temper, intense worry or prolonged irritation will pour a stream of astral energy into, and through the solar plexus center, and will galvanize that center into a condition of intense disturbance. This next affects the stomach, the pancreas, the gall duct and bladder. Few people, and I might well ask who is exempt at this particular time in the world's history, are free from indigestion, from undesirable gastric conditions, or from trouble connected with the gallbladder. The tendency to criticism, to violent dislikes, and to hatreds based on criticism, or a superiority complex, produces much of the acidity from which the majority of people suffer. I would like to add in passing that I am here generalizing. So many people are prone to an inferiority complex in relation to themselves, but to a superiority complex, where their relation to other people is concerned. Stomachic physical plane effects are closely tied up with the desire aspect of the physical body, which finds expression in the eating and drinking of that which is desired, leading subsequently to those attacks of biliousness to which so many are prone. I offer these above illustrations to demonstrate the effect of the prevalent wrong attitudes to life and people which today distinguish mankind, and produce the above-mentioned conditions. The ills which are based on criticism, upon hatred, and upon the capacity to judge each other, usually unkindly, work through from the throat center to the solar plexus. This interrelation existing between the centers is one that has never been properly considered. The centers in the etheric body pass varying kinds of energies amongst themselves, and a great deal of the energy transmitted from one center to another is undesirable, flowing from the centers below the diaphragm to those above. The physical body, etheric and dense, can be pictured as a house with two telephonic installations and bringing in energies from without the house, and the other being in the nature of a house telephone from room to room. The analogy is far more accurate than appears to the casual thinker. In every modern house, light and water and gas and telephonic interchange are brought. Light, the symbol of the soul. Water, the symbol of the emotions. Telephonic interchange, the symbol of mind with its intercommunication of knowledges. And gas, the symbol of the etheric nature. It is interesting and saddening to note that that which at present goes out of the average house is the refuse, that is undesirable. This is the correspondence to that which is selfish and sad, and the demand for the satisfaction of personal needs and desires. It can be seen, therefore, why I have so emphatically impressed the need of harmlessness upon all of you, for it is the scientific method, par excellence, and esoterically speaking, of cleaning house and of purifying the centers. Its practice clears the clogged channels, and permits the entrance of the higher energies. The emotional causes of disease, and the mental attitudes which produce physical discomfort are at this particular time those which are the most prevalent. When they are persisted in over a long period of time, and are carried over from life to life, they cause the more violent aspects of the conditions referred to above, and from them serious and destructive diseases can emerge, necessitating, for instance, the removal of the gallbladder or those operations incident to the appearance of chronic gastric ulcers. Other diseases grow from a constant pandering to the desire nature, though sexual diseases come under another category. It can be seen from the above how desirable it is that the true healer should combine in himself, not only a measure of esoteric knowledge, but until he is an initiate something of psychology, something of the work of a magnetic healer, and also be a trained medical man or surgeon. Much of the healing now done is worse than useless, because the three above-mentioned conditions are lacking. Most doctors, especially those who are called general practitioners, are good psychologists, and they have also a sound knowledge of symptoms and of anatomy and of curative measures which are usually lacking in the average metaphysical healer. But they are entirely ignorant of one great field of knowledge, that concerning the energies which meet and war within the human frame, and of the potencies which can be set in motion if certain esoteric truths are admitted in place. Until they work with the etheric body and study the science of the centers, they can make little further progress. The esoteric healer knows much about the inner forces and energies and has some understanding of the basic causes of the exoteric diseases, but his ignorance of man's mechanism is deplorable, and he fails to realize two things. First, that disease is sometimes the working out into manifestation of undesirable subjective conditions. These, when externalized and brought to the surface of the human body, can then be known, dealt with, and eliminated. It is well to remember also that sometimes this working out and elimination may well bring about the death of that particular body. But the soul goes on. One short life counts for very little in the long cycle of the soul, and it is counted well worthwhile if a period of ill health, even if it eventuates in death, brings about the clearing away of wrong emotional and mental conditions. Second, disease is sometimes incident upon and part of the process of the withdrawal of the soul from its habitation. This we call death, and it can come quickly and unexpectedly when the soul withdraws with suddenness from its body. Or death can spread itself over a long period of time, and the soul may take several months or years for its slow and gradual emergence from the body, with the body dying by inches all the time. There is not sufficient knowledge yet among healers to enable them to deal with wisdom in these matters. We might therefore conclude that 1. Disease is a purificatory process, carried out in order to produce a purer expression, life aroma, influence and soul usefulness. When this is the case, a cure is possible. 2. Disease can be a gradual and slow process of dying and of thus releasing the soul. A cure then will not be possible, though palliative and ameliorative measures are needed and should most certainly be used. The length of the life can be prolonged, but a permanent and final cure is out of the question. This the average mental healer fails to realize. They make a horror out of death, whereas death is a beneficent friend. 3. Disease can be the sudden and final call to the body to relinquish the soul and set it free for other service. In all these cases everything possible should be done from the standpoint of modern medical and surgical science, and the allied sciences of which there are today so many. Much too can be done from the angle of mental and spiritual healing, aided by the science of psychology. Someday there must come cooperation in these various fields, and a synthesizing of their efforts. I have earlier pointed out that the astral body is the prime motivating factor in the lives of the majority. This is caused by the fact that 1. It is the body in which the bulk of human beings are today centering their consciousness. 2. It is the most developed of the bodies at this time, and therefore receives the bulk of the life energy as it comes down the life stream, from the soul, and likewise receives the energy of the stream of consciousness. 3. It is oriented, if I may so express it, outwards or towards the plane of physical experience. That orientation shifts at times and, temporarily in the case of the aspirant, turns inwards. Just as the centers in man, the lotuses of life, are depicted as turned downwards and with the stalk upwards in the undeveloped man, but are turned upwards in the case of the developed, so there are conditions in the astral body analogous to this. In the case of the highly evolved man, of the initiate or the master, the astral body is steadily oriented towards the soul. In the mystic, the aspirant and the disciple, the process of thus definitely changing the direction of the forces, is going on and producing, therefore, a temporary chaos. 4. The astral body of man, being the latest to develop, the physical and the etheric being the first two in order of time, is still the most alive and potent. It reached its acme of development in late Atlantean days and its potency is still great, constituting the mass potency, the mass emphasis, and the mass polarization. This is also augmented by energies coming from the animal kingdom, which is entirely astral in its point of attainment. I would remind you here that the use of the word body is most misleading and unfortunate. It produces in the consciousness the idea of a defined form and a specific shape. The astral body is an aggregate of forces, working through into the consciousness in the form of desires, impulses, longings, wishes, determinations, incentives, and projections, thus laying the basis for much of the truth of the teachings of modern psychology. Psychologists have discovered, or rather uncovered, the nature of some of these forces,